What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel for another installment of the tune-up series, where my hope is to kind of share and relay some helpful swing ideas, some swing feels, maybe some tips, some drills that you can do. The whole point of this series is me coming from a standpoint of stuff that is either currently helping me, has helped me in the past, maybe I'm looking forward to trying in the future. Just kind of some more relatable golf content where I'm by no means a swing coach. You can tell that by any of the videos you've seen. This is not textbook advice by any means. I'm not giving lessons. I've actually never had a lesson. You can probably tell that. And all that to say, I usually preface it by these are just my opinions, what I feel like has helped me, and I just kind of want to share this information in hopes that maybe 90% of the people say this is terrible, and then 10% say, huh, that kind of makes sense, I'm going to try it, and maybe it helps. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. This one, I'm doing something a little bit different and a little bit of uncharted territory, because the other ones that I've done have been a little more conventional golf knowledge, to where maybe I just gave a different name to it and I explained it slightly different, but there's probably a bunch of other videos. This one kind of has some aspects to it, but honestly, I've been trying to, over the past week or two, I did 2 videos before this. One about having a super stable, more balanced setup at address. That's one of them. I felt like the two videos I did before this were important enough to kind of separate and not just mention it 5 seconds here in this video and kind of pass on. So I think there are kind of some building blocks to it, at least from what I feel, and if I think about why I've been hitting the ball a little bit better over the past week or two. I'm not perfect, obviously. I have good rounds, bad rounds, good holes, bad holes, good swings, bad swings, all that kind of stuff. But I think over the past 2 weeks or so, I've had some really, really good rounds. And specifically speaking, when I came out last week with Big Dog to do our scramble, I was probably played the best that I ever have in terms of shots on camera. Irons, driver, everything was just like laser beams at the pin for the front 9. Really is the first like 5 or 6 holes. In any event, this stuff I think is helping, and I'm trying to do my best to try to explain it and try to conceptualize it and kind of give a name to it. Because a lot of this stuff maybe you do in your swing, but maybe you've never thought about if you were to explain to someone how you would do it. In any event, this one may be a little more long-winded. I tend to get long-winded anyways, but I am calling this one presetting the X factor. So the X factor, not necessarily a new concept in golf. You may have heard of it. If I ask you what the X factor is, I think most people would say, yeah, I kind of know what that is. Usually what people would say is the separation at the top of the swing between your upper body and your lower body. So at the very top of the swing, you look at elite players, and what they do to generate so much power and consistency is by the time they get to the top up here, their upper body and their shoulders, really from their waist up, core, shoulders, upper body, arms, everything is in a closed position. And at the start of the downswing, top of the backswing, they start firing the hips. So you get that separation and that like torsional rotation between opening your hips while your upper body remains closed. So I actually have this up over here. I can pull this up. If you guys Google what X Factor is, if you've never heard of it, this is essentially what comes up. You type in X Factor golf. There's a bunch of different drills and like methodologies explaining how and why this kind of position and this method in golf is so powerful. But basically it's saying the X factor is the rotational difference or separation between a golfer's shoulders and hips at the top of the backswing. Key component for creating power. More separation is related to greater power. Related concept is the X factor stretch. You can read it. You can pause the video if you want to read it. So basically I've heard that before, and that's one of those things where I personally need, for better or for worse, to have things kind of watered down and a little more simple to grasp. So, for example, my video right before this was keep your back to the target. I can line up without even having a video of someone doing that or explaining it. If someone tells me, all right, try a swing with keeping your back more towards the target, like I can figure out what that should feel like. There's other things where you may learn differently, but when you're breaking down the swing into like P5, P7, your wrist is too much flexion and too much cupped. I can't do any of that. I need to have maybe 1 or 2 at the most swing thoughts as I'm playing. Try to keep things relatively simple. Keep it simple, stupid type of methodology. Kind of clear your mind and just hit the ball. If you're thinking about 10 different positions, 20 different swing tips while you're trying to play, I just don't see how you do it with any kind of consistency. But in any event, the X factor, I've heard about it before. I feel like sometimes I do it without even thinking about it, but that's kind of one of those more grandiose saying like, okay, the pros do that. I don't really know how to do that. The reason why I've been hitting the ball lately is because I think I kind of just thought about this the other day. I'm kind of incorporating this into my swing at setup without even really knowing it. So, like I mentioned, I'm going to coin this presetting the X factor. So, what does that mean? Check out the 2 videos I did before. A lot of it comes down to a wider, more stable, more balanced, a little more knee, a little bit more of an athletic, getting ready to jump, explode, push against something type of setup. From there, throughout the swing, which I've been doing for a couple months now, the feeling of setup, backswing, and even contact, keeping my back towards the target. So that's why I separated those. Those will kind of put you in the general, from what I feel, general standpoint of kind of the building blocks of this. And then from there, what I've really been feeling as of late, maybe it's because I'm hitting more of a pull. To me, it feels like I'm just much more in the slot to where I'm flushing it. The power is way more effortless. The control's more effortless. I just came out here. I hit like 2 shots before this. So whether I even hit a shot or not is irrelevant. It's not about what my swing looks like. It's about me trying to explain what this feel is, and then you guys maybe just trying it out on the range. But presetting the X factor. So ideally, what you're going to want is, you can put down an alignment stick if you want, but ideally, just to try this out, have your feet relatively square and straight. So kind of down the line, parallel railroad tracks, you kind of hear that. But in my opinion, if you can, kind of get down, brace your core like you're going to do a crunch throughout, kind of squat into it. I like flaring my feet and feeling more of kind of my hips, lower body, and legs kind of engaged. This really helps with that rotational power, especially with the hips. From there, I can even feel like I'm opening, weight kind of forward, have my hips a bit open. And then from here, presetting that kind of X factor is the feeling of, if I kind of come out here and more towards, if you're going to practice doing that, your hips are a bit forward and your shoulders are closed, your body's closed. And you say, okay, well, I can't hit the ball from here. But if you have this feeling, then you kind of come back, and maybe you're over here, you're saying, okay, I can't hit the ball from here. But you start adjusting things a little bit to where your hips still feel open. Whether they are or not, whether they're square, slightly closed, it's about the feeling. So the feeling of keeping your hips more open and your back more close to the target, and presetting that at address. So it's a lot easier to get into that X factor position at the top if you're presetting it at the very beginning, versus if you're super closed, shoulders completely open, you basically need to do the complete opposite in a very, very short amount of time at the top to get to that position. So in my opinion, it's a lot easier, and I think that is by all guides and from what a lot of people say, that's a super important, super powerful position of being in that X factor, with the separation of upper body and lower body at the top of the backswing. So those are essentially the main feels of, just to boil it down, feel like at address before you even do it, to kind of preset yourself for success. Feel like your hips are a bit more open, and your shoulders, mainly it's the shoulders, your hips can even be square, it's your shoulders feeling really, really closed. And by the time you get to the top, you don't really have to do a ton to get to that position, because you're already, if I line up pretty square, again, my feet are flared, but they're pretty square on this, if anything, a touch open. So I kind of feel like I line up, kind of preset a little bit forward. There's some weight forward on the left hip. Hips feel open. From there, I kind of come back and I say, okay, now shoulders and upper body, I'm kind of looking down more out of my left eye at the ball. And right now, I am already in a much better position to where if I come up, all I really have to do is just come back, and I'm already there. I'm already in that X factor pose, and then it's just literally coming right back down into the ball. And by that time, your hips are already firing more open, and because you preset your shoulders closed, they're closed too. So give it a try. I can hit 1 or 2. Again, it doesn't matter. I'm not warmed up. These videos, you talk and then you cool down, so it doesn't even matter what my swing looks like or feels like. Or I should say, I'm trying to explain the feel, but it doesn't matter what my swing looks like. Whether I'm doing it or not, it's the feel. So main things, just try to feel like you can open feet pretty square, flare them out, a little more squatted position. Obviously, you don't want to hit the ball down here, but just the feeling of a little more bend, a little more stable. If you were about to jump or explode, I kind of explained that. Basically, that kind of feeling. Brace your core for impact. Feel like your hips are a bit more open, weight a bit more forward. Kind of feel kind of those inner thighs more engaged. You'll have that feeling, at least I do. And then from here, kind of the more tricky point is just some of it will come down to flexibility, and there's too much of a good thing. So you don't obviously want to set up to the ball back here. But with that feeling of a bit more here, it gets you, in my opinion, more into the slot. That was just thin and low. Again, I'm hesitant to hit shots because you would say, okay, that was a terrible shot. I'm not going to try this. That's besides the point. It gets you into a much better position, and you're presetting it to where that's a very, very powerful and impactful position between power and consistency, and you get much more slotted, much more on plane by doing that. In my opinion, if I can boil it down, again, I'm just repeating myself, but if you can do your best to try to eliminate a lot of the timing factors in the swing to I don't think there's much argument that you would ideally want to get more into that position at the top, pretty much everyone out there. So the question comes down to how do you do it the most efficiently with the least amount of moving parts. I'm not a huge fan of trying to time stuff up between a lot of sway, a lot of movement, flipping the face open. By the time you get to the top, then you need to come back and time it up. For me, when I'm the most consistent, I feel like everything is pretty stationary, stable, not a ton of movement and timing, and you kind of just swing. So people do other stuff, stack and tilt. There's actually a bit pulley. Segudo Golf, I believe his name is. I haven't seen a ton of his videos, but if you actually look, now that I was kind of thinking about some of this stuff, he kind of sets up, honestly, in a similar spot. He has weight forward. His feet are pretty flared. I don't know if he's talked about this X Factor or kind of presetting it. I guess kind of the novel idea was, for me, kind of getting into that position at address versus trying to get there halfway through the swing. But you look at different similarities between other methodologies and other swing tips, and a lot of stuff kind of blends together and overlaps. So give it a try. Let me know what you think. Again, one final time, more stable, engage the core, flare the feet out a little bit, feel like your hips, whether they are or not, feel like they're a bit more open at the start, feel like your shoulders are a bit more closed. At the beginning, you may need to adjust and say, okay, I need to move the ball forward, ball back. But that feeling of really trying to line that ball up with your left eye, keeping the weight forward, your shoulders are going to be much more closed. And by the time you get here, there's really not a ton you have to do. You kind of just come back and come through. Obviously, that was way off the toe. Same thing as last video. I start hitting shots, and then that was terrible. So I'm going to hit one good one. This is my 8-iron. I'm going to hit one good one, either 155 or 160 with a draw, and then we'll call it quits. I don't know why I keep doing it to myself. I keep saying I'm not going to hit any shots, and then I start hitting some. Close enough. 154, baby draw. Basically, what I'm trying to tell you guys is I've been feeling, especially days where I'm tired, sore, I work out a lot, all that kind of stuff. Days where I kind of feel like, okay, I'm hitting the ball good. Why am I hitting it good today? A lot of it comes down to this. So give it a try. Let me know what you think. I believe if you kind of practice with it, even for 5 or 10 minutes, you'll feel there will be one of those swings where it'll just click. And you say, wow, by the time I got from here down to here, it just felt really effortless. I made really good contact. The ball went further, and there's going to be a lot more control. It's not one of those things you can do it once and just say, okay, I got it. It's one of these things where you're going to have to probably try it a little bit. Whether you want to do it or not, that's up to you. But I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up. Hopefully it makes sense. Honestly, I tried to wait a little bit on this because I kind of had the idea of the X Factor and kind of the feeling. Hopefully I did a good enough job explaining it, but I think I'm at the point where I haven't changed a lot. I've been kind of focusing on that feel over the past couple weeks, and it seems to be helping out. So give it a try. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you try to get into that X Factor pose at the top, if you've ever thought about kind of presetting it at address. May make life a little bit easier. Let me know down below. But shout out to the members. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.